Hello and welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups, technology and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Srikanth coming to you live from India Startup Capital, Bengaluru. And the issue we are tackling today is not one that just impacts startups or entrepreneurs. It's something that impacts you and me, something that all of us should be worried about. Because one of the deadliest cyber attacks has been unleashed worldwide. People are calling it WannaCry. It's a ransomware program. Now remember, the way ransomware really works is it just enters your system and does not allow you to access anything till you pay up. That's literally how it works, and this has so far impacted 150 countries. People are still waiting to gauge the extent of the impact. In India too, RBI has issued advisory to banks because ATMs are seen as vulnerable considering a majority of them run on Windows XP. We have today a special panel to really take us through this WannaCry ransomware. But before we get to that, here's an explainer package to really help you understand all about ransomware, how it originated, and the likely impact as far as India is concerned.
WannaCry is a deadly software that's blocking access to computers around the globe, demanding a ransom. Here are more details to help you understand the impact of what is touted as one of the most deadliest cyber attacks in recent times. WannaCry is a software that blocks access to computers. It is deadly because it quickly spreads to other systems on the network. It is called a ransomware because hackers are demanding ransom of over $600 in bitcoins to unlock access. On target are organizations that have not updated their systems. Magnitude is so huge that more than 2 lakh computers in 150 countries have been hit. Back home in India, while many organizations have been hit, banks are most vulnerable. With RBI asking banks to update software for ATMs across the country, even the Computer Emergency Response Team has issued a red alert warning against it, signifying the seriousness of the attack. With Rahul Dayama in Bangalore, Neha Bothra, ET Now, Mumbai.
The government of India is keeping a very strong watch over it. As per our information up to date, there has been isolated incidents in very limited areas in Andhra Pradesh and in a very limited area in Kerala. But we have been updating our whole security measures since March itself. Particularly, the patch system of software has been installed so as to completely stonewall any cyber attack from any quarter. We have also been in touch with the banking system to reinforce their architecture.
To take you through then what you can do in such a situation, how prepared India is, we have a battery of experts, but we are going to start with NASSCOM President R. Chandrasekhar joining us from New Delhi. So NASSCOM of course has a data security division. You've been investing in cyber security increasingly. What do you make of this ransomware program in terms of its impact as far as India is concerned and the impact it could have on enterprises?
Yeah, I think that we have certainly looked at the industry's position. Very briefly, I think the attacks from what we understand at the moment are essentially targeted towards users of Windows XP and earlier versions of Windows, and especially those which have not been, where patches have not been provided, which makes them vulnerable to security attacks. As far as the industry itself is concerned, as you know, the industry being in the technology business is probably best placed to address these concerns and to be prepared for them, and it's probably better prepared than the average users, and therefore you know, we are not seeing really any widespread or substantial impact in the industry. As far as outside the industry is concerned, there have been some reports about attack on certain government institutions, including police establishments. But again, at this up till this point, nothing that we are picking up relating to critical infrastructure. These are still early days because news of this attack came up on Friday, and the expectation was that it was only on Monday when people again started using their computers that this would spread. So we have, in fact, the DSCI has put out, the DSCI is the Data Security Council of India, a subsidiary of the NASSCOM, which has been focused on security, cyber security. So an advisory has also been put out to companies as well as to employees on what some of the precautions are which they need to take to avoid becoming victims of the attack.
Hold your thoughts there, Mr. Chandrasekhar, because we also have Andrew McIntosh joining us on the panel. He's Executive Director for Control Risks, a firm that specializes in advising enterprises on all sorts of risks that they face and how they can really control them. We also have Riaz Walikar, Chief Hacker at AppSeco, joining us live from Bengaluru. Riaz, I'm not sure if it's a good day to call yourself a hacker, but we'll come back to you. Let me go to Andrew first. Andrew, in the last few days, have there been a lot of increase in the number of requests that you've got from companies as far as ransomware, as far as this ransomware is concerned, in terms of, protecting themselves from WannaCry? And is the demand also very high from India, and in what sectors?
Hi, Chandra. Pleasure to be here. I mean, I think that obviously it's safe to say these attacks have been unprecedented in their size and scale. Certainly we've been speaking to both clients and talking more broadly about the issue that has been impacting a wide number of organisations and people. I think there is certainly demand, particularly out of some sectors that rely perhaps more heavily than others upon some of these older systems. If you look at some of the organisations operating in, say, the manufacturing space, for example, there are currently executives making difficult decisions about whether they pull production systems offline in order to apply patches to ensure that they are up to date and less likely to be impacted and affected. We also see in organisations who are affected trying to decide whether it is going to make more sense to look at restoring from a backup rather than paying the ransom. But I think what it's really coming down to is looking at companies that have invested heavily into what you call their cyber hygiene versus organisations with a different type of vulnerability or who haven't seen this as a core part of their business risk. Right.
I want to come to you, Riaz. You've worked in this area extensively. What really differentiates the current attack, WannaCry, from other cyber attacks in the past? Why is there so much of panic this time around? And ironically, the source code is apparently something that originated from the NSA. So what's really different about this cyber attack versus the others?
Primarily, the major difference in this particular attack was the use of the exploit. Right, the knowledge of the exploit was available to the world almost last month when shadow brokers leaked the exploit that NSA had used for multiple attacks at different systems all over the world. This particular exploit was reused in this particular malware, in this ransomware, and the way it encrypts, it has the capability of encrypting over 150 different types of files. And the standard behavior, like for most ransomwares as well, that most ransomwares will encrypt files on the system and then ask you to wire money to a Bitcoin wallet or something like that. The modus operandi is the same. The way they are working is the same, but the primary exploit that was used to spread the malware itself is what has garnered a lot of attention. And the spread that happened in the last 2 days itself, it was noticed late Friday and over the weekend. And because it was the weekend, a lot of companies, were in early hours of Monday morning when they walk into office, they notice that a bunch of systems are offline because weekend the whole spread happened, and patch management for a lot of companies is a nightmare in the first place, and this happening on the weekend itself was a pain point. Right, so the exploit that came from the NSA list of exploits as well as the timing of the attack itself was, I think, the primary factors.
Right. Mr. Chandrasekhar, coming back to you, a majority, or I mean, this is obviously targeted at, the Windows XP operating system based on what I've been reading, and considering a majority of the bank ATMs in India work on Windows XP, anything specific that Microsoft is doing at this point to mitigate the risk? I'm sure they are a member of NASSCOM as well. Anything specific that they are doing at this point?
Yeah, what we understand is that Microsoft has, of course, it has been providing the patches for all the systems that it is supporting, but in this particular context, they have also provided support even to installations which were not being supported or for which there were no subsisting contracts. So I think that is certainly very helpful and a very positive approach that has been taken by Microsoft in that context, and we do hope that with the help of the company that any possible impact of these attacks will be minimized, if not eliminated.
Right. Andrew, coming to you, I touched upon the first part where, if there's been increase in queries. I want to follow up on that. Just how prepared are enterprises in India to counter something like this? While cybersecurity has been spoken about for many years now, have they been investing in that a great deal? And, we're only talking about cybersecurity in the private sector now. We don't yet know how prepared the government is. But based on the companies that you've worked with, what is your own assessment of how ready India Inc. is as far as cybersecurity is concerned?
I think it's a good question. I think it's safe to say that India is obviously a heavily interconnected and increasingly digital nation, and I think it is very much fair to say that you see a lot of technology being driven out to the world with BPO's data centers operating here. The organisations we see who have been far better prepared than others, both in India and abroad, are those that have taken a really holistic approach to looking at cybersecurity and cybersecurity risks as part of their overall risk management approach. Where they have taken good data governance, talking before there about patch management, where they have a good process in place. And it's really the process around patch management, not just the technological element of rolling it out. Those organisations are much better prepared. The organisations that you see relying more upon those outdated Windows systems like Windows XP, or organisations that have, particularly employees perhaps using pirated copies of Windows, those are the organisations you see as being more at risk of these sorts of attacks because they are just not as prepared. And I think it is safe to say that one of the key elements is considering an attack like this when you're considering other aspects of business continuity or disaster planning. And a number of organisations do that, but not all of them.
Right. Riyaz, coming to you, you just heard out Andrew on, just how prepared or not prepared Indian enterprises are. But based on the conversations that you've been seeing over the last couple of days on social media among ethical hacker groups, what is your own reading of the situation? How vulnerable is India as far as WannaCry ransomware is concerned?
India or any other country for that matter, there are a lot of systems that still run older versions of Windows, and even with XP or Windows 7 for that matter, there are several systems that have not been patched, and this particular patch was released by Microsoft last month. But then given that the window was just barely a month, because we've seen in the past where at least a month or two, or at least 2-3 months for organizations to be able to test patches and then deploy them on their systems. A lot of companies who run legacy software, these softwares are running on older operating systems like Windows 2003 or XP, and the pain that they would have to go through to move these software or the applications that they're comfortably running and everything now on these old operating systems to new operating systems, patched and updated and completely under their control. that pain they wouldn't want to incur at this point in time. So testing of patches itself and deploying them on production environments is something that most companies, they have to follow a stringent process. They risk bringing down their applications and their public-facing infrastructure. In this case, because the availability of the exploit was, it was pretty easy to, and the tools were available as such, it was pretty straightforward for the ransomware creators to be able to deploy this and execute. India as such, we've already seen infections in multiple places in India and organizations. The Andhra Pradesh police, for example, there have been several cases where I have received news that there are still multiple systems that are, spreading malware. Because the way the malware exploits, the way the malware executes on the network, it tries to find other systems that have a particular service running on the network, and once it finds it, it attempts to infect it and then moves on. Right, so it is actually spreading indiscriminately at this point in time. Right, so the most system. Yeah.
Riyaz, hold your thoughts there. Hold your thoughts there. We also want to get Mr. Chandrasekhar to comment on this. So, have you received reports so far of systems getting infiltrated because of this malware? Anything that you can share, at an official level as far as enterprises are concerned? Because informally, at least, there is fear that perhaps this is spreading and spreading fast. But what have you heard so far?
There have just been some sporadic reports of some problems here or there, but nothing that we could actually confirm at this point. But certainly this much one can say that there have not been any widespread attacks or impact within the industry. Outside of the industry, I think we still need some time to understand the impact, and I'm sure that the government and CERTIN and other organizations involved in cybersecurity are making their assessment. So we'll probably need to wait for a day or two to get updated information. But the fact is that news of this attack has been around now for 2 or 3 days, and information about some of the kind of precautions that need to be taken also has started becoming available. CERTIN also had put out some advisories. So hopefully that will help in minimizing the impact. But at the same time, I think it has an important lesson for us, that cybersecurity is something that we just can no longer take our chances with. It is something which every large-scale user of IT systems needs to worry about. Cybersecurity and information security is something for which there has to be a definitive plan, and there has to be specific responsibility cast within organizations, including, for example, having chief information security officers and so on. So I think that the blasé approach to cybersecurity will no longer work, and in that sense, I think this is a wake-up call for everyone in the country.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Andrew, I'm sure that's something that must be music to your ears. The NASSCOM president saying that one cannot take cybersecurity lightly. Do you see business going up in the coming days?
I certainly think you're going to see some organisations paying more attention to it in the coming days. It is obviously all over the headlines at the moment. It's very widespread. I think it would be nice to see more organisations taking that approach of not just your chief information security officers, but the senior executives of your organisation and your business paying attention to this as one of the risks they face in a business. You see over the past few years, the Yahoo attacks or the attacks on Sony Pictures. These can be quite costly, quite reputationally embarrassing attacks. And so, while this particular issue, the ransomware issue has been around for a while, this obviously is in unprecedented scale. And it would be nice to see that kind of integration of dealing with and addressing cyber risks forming part of that broader risk management approach of an organisation.
Sure. Thanks for that. I'm going to let Riyaz have the final word here. Riyaz, you've heard the enterprise point of view, but as a user, what should my neighbor or me be worried about? How can we protect ourselves better? I'm going to ask you to leave us with 4 or 5 simple hacks that all of us can follow to really ensure that we don't fall prey to this ransomware WannaCry. So 4 or 5 top of the mind, whatever occurs to you.
So most, because the prevention or the cautionary procedures that you can take they're not very different from enterprises or your next door neighbor. You should always ensure that you should keep an updated operating system for that matter. And Windows XP is dead. So is Windows 2003. As a user, as a layman user, make sure that you have an updated operating system. Make sure that you apply patches as and when they come out. I've seen a lot of users when the operating system prompts you saying that there's a Windows patch available and you need to restart, and they will have 1500 Chrome tabs open and they'll have multiple programs running, and they're like, yeah, let me put this up for tomorrow. That is something that we should actively take care of. That if there is an update available, it is a security update, please go ahead and deploy the update. It's just one restart. You're not going to. It's safer to restart the system now and then, or fall prey to one of these attacks and lose all your data. For email users, if you receive an unsolicited email or on Facebook or any of the social media, if you receive links, please be extremely careful when you're going to click on these links, and especially for users who download a lot of content on the internet. Regardless of what service you use, make sure that the content that you're downloading is the content that you really wanted to download. Right? A lot of websites create the UI in such a way that you actually get tricked into downloading malware in your systems instead of the actual file itself. Have antiviruses, for example. Most antiviruses have created a signature for this particular ransomware. If you have an antivirus on your system, ideally you should have an antivirus on your system for most layman users. Make sure that your antivirus is updated. Right, and I have seen a lot of cases. For pirated users, especially for operating system or antivirus or any other software, make sure that updates are deployed. You could be using a PDF reader, for example, or your browser itself. Make sure that updates are deployed, because the creators of this software are ensuring that they prevent the spread of the ransomware or any other malware in the future that comes out. They are actively doing work to ensure that users are not affected and your system does not become the point of spread for other systems in the network. So make sure that these updates and the software patches are deployed properly. That's all I have for.
Right. Riyaz, thanks for that. I'm sure all of us are actively, typing out or making notes of what you said. But with that, we come to the end of the session. So thank you so much, Mr. Chandrasekhar, Andrew, and Riyaz, for taking out time and taking us through this deadly cyber attack. Hopefully, it subsides in the days to come, and India has enough digital infrastructure and cyber security to really combat this. But with that, we come to the end of the special show. Thanks so much for watching.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/ETNow.